share this. Hello, everybody. Getting that I actually share before going live, so sorry about that. I am sharing the video to the Facebook groups right now. So pardon me while I do that. And in a minute, I will be putting out the phone number for everybody. 336 444 2169. I need to remind everyone that that is call and text. Sorry, I'm kind of thinking out loud with sharing the video, as well as also trying to talk to you guys. Let me just make sure that both groups have it. Alrighty. Hello, everyone. So, I'm sorry that it's late. I don't know if this is a good time for everyone or not, but I had to go to a wedding with a friend of mine tonight. So and I just got back an hour ago. So yeah, it's like pretty much just got back. So that's why the show is going to be, or the live stream is going to be late. It's kind of like a podcast or talk show, I guess. I don't know. Sorry. Let me write the number in the chat box. Got a couple of interesting things to talk about this week. Again, you can call or text this number. I'm just putting it into the chat so that everyone can see it. So I hope everyone's Monday has been going all right. Again, if you have questions or want to share anything, you can always comment, but you can also anonymously call or text the number that I just put up on the screen. So something interesting. I'm getting notifications from my own post. Something interesting happened earlier this week. One of our newest members to the Facebook group posted something, and it made me think about some of the ways that we can protect ourselves. Let me go to one person wants to. Oh, someone else wants to join the group. Okay. I'm sorry, you guys, if you ever if you try to send a request to the group, sometimes it takes me a very long time to find them because I'm not notified for some reason. I have no idea why that is. It also, for some reason, doesn't even let me view the membership questions, like, the questions I have on there for people to answer to become a member of the group. For some reason, it doesn't. For some reason, I don't see what the person even answered. So I'm very new to the whole Facebook group thing. I'm not really sure how groups work on Facebook. Okay, let's see. Is this the right number? Okay. It shows I had like some kind of weird international call from Saturday. I don't think that would be any of you guys. I'm not really sure what. It's a very long number. It's 13 digits long for some reason. I don't know what that is. But anyway, I have the app open. Sorry, I'm blinding you. I have the app open. So, which I don't think I have to have it open for you guys to call, but it's I prefer to have it open because if it is open, I know that I can't miss a text or a call. So anyway, back to what I was saying about someone who shared in the group this past week. Um, I don't remember exactly what the post was, but if you're in the group, you already know what the post was that they posted. Um, but it made me start thinking about how we can protect ourselves. And part of the issue is that in recent years, people have become more and more disconnected from their community. And like for me, I absolutely love online communities. I do. I think that they serve a great purpose. But one of the downsides is that it seems like local communities have a big disconnection where they are not the people in your physical community you're not in as close a contact with, and everything is just really on a superficial level, and we all are kind of distrusting of one another. And also, this was something very interesting that Richard Grannon talked about on his channel this past week. And it's called the Alice in Wonderland technique. That's what it's called. The CIA created it. And what it is where you'll have you'll have a person that's being interrogated by three or so CIA agents, and they will just be asking them just like completely nonsensical questions. They'll just be speaking babble and garbage and nonsense to them, not making any sense at all. And a lot of times that method works because it creates cognitive dissonance, which is pretty much it's the brain's reaction to dealing with a reality that doesn't match the reality that you believe that you have. um, and so being faced with this crazy reality, which is why it's called the Alice in Wonderland technique, because like Alice in Wonderland, she left her world and went into this otherworldly, just wild and crazy place. And that's what they do. They end up just berating this person with these crazy nonsensical questions that don't lead to anywhere. And I've had some experience with that, not as far as the government directly, but as far as in one of my past relationships that I had with a previous partner, where they would ramble, and it's like they would be interrogating me. Like I actually thought into myself, are they really like a CIA or FBI agents or something? Because the way that they were interrogating me, it's like they was trying to break me, but I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to break me of. Like, are you just trying to break me as a person, as a human being? Like, what are you trying to break out of me? I don't understand. What is the purpose of this? And it was crazy making. It really was. And that was just one person doing it. I couldn't imagine being locked up in a room with three people that are doing that. Um, and so it's just experiencing that one on one, especially because I hadn't dealt with that before. I dealt with different levels of narcissism and toxic or abusive people, but I hadn't ever dealt with that just like crazy, like, oh yeah, go, I need that thing over there. Will you go over there and get that thing? And then you come back with the thing, and it's like, what are you talking about? No, I didn't ask for that. No. Well, well, you know how you forget things sometimes, so maybe that's what you oh, yeah, I think that we had a conversation and I had mentioned that earlier or something, and so, yeah, no, but I didn't ask you to bring that, and we had that conversation, like, 2 hours ago, like, "Why are you just now thinking about it? What is wrong with you?" And it's like, they would do stuff like that, where they would just and then some of the times when they would be interrogating me, they would give me this, like, list of stories where it's like they would try to relate something to what they were interrogating me about, like, they would be asking me about an ex or something, and then all of a sudden they would go off telling me this, like, really long tale about how, "Well, this person, did this thing, and then the other thing," and they would have this, like, huge backstory to this thing, and it would be, like, several different examples they would be trying to give me, and none of them even led to anything, and I'm just, like, sitting there, like, an hour later, like, when they finally get done and stop talking, I'm like, "What am I supposed to be responding? What am I supposed to say?" It's like, "No." And it's like, "Oh, so you don't agree with it?" There's, like, a whole 'nother hour that's getting wasted on another set of, like, rambling, nonsensical stuff, and I'm just like, "Oh god," and then when it's like then when I finally figured out what it was they wanted me to say, and then I'd say that, it's like, "Yeah, well, you're just saying that because you know that that's what I want you to say, and so" and I'm like, "I literally just don't understand what is going on here." And that was one person, which thankfully now I understand that that's all it was, and that's what they were doing is it was the Alice in Wonderland technique, and that they were doing that to try to it's crazy making, it really is. They were trying to create cognitive dissonance, and it worked for a while. For a few months, I was really starting to think, and do I have dementia? Am I going crazy? Like, what what is going on? I am confused all of the time about everything now. But it's kind of like I kind of knew what was wrong. That I knew it wasn't me. That it was them, and that they had some kind of sinister reason for doing these things, and it was to cover up whatever it was they were actually doing. And so you know, now thankfully that I've went through that, and it was for a very short time, thank God. But I understand to some degree what this technique and like what Richard Grannon talked about. Imagine not only, like you're not locked in a room with three CIA agents or whatever, but you are imagine a country or a government using this technique against its people. And he went on to, give some examples about that, um, and how, they keep everyone confused, and they do. Um, you're not allowed to say what you think is right or wrong anymore. And if you do, then you're wrong. So it's very, very weird at the time that we're living in right now, and have been actually for a really long time. It started a long time ago with like what is politically correct to say or not. And and now they've kind of went to the extreme with those things. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because it does tie into CPS, because the government keeps everyone fighting with each other. We feel s- like there's just a loss of intimacy in communities now where just like 50 years ago, you could go next door and ask your neighbor for a cup of sugar or whatever, like that kind of thing. And like I know it's a really cliche thing to say, but literally you could do that. Or, you would have a neighbor where you could run by and be like, "Hey, can you please watch my 2-year old? I've got to run down the road to, grab this thing or do that." Um, like whatever, like you could trust each other to do that. And now we're living in a time where they actually, for one, they are trying to create, like, make everyone a secret agent basically, where it's like, oh, you're a good citizen if you're turning in all of your neighbors, friends, and relatives, um, and that try to get people to actually do the government's job for them. And also too, they're creating a level of animosity amongst people that we haven't seen in a very long time. For one, they try to keep the racism wars going when I really feel like most people want these race wars to stop. But the reason why they keep going is because they keep putting this image out there, and it's what it is they're trying to create a reality, like on the news and the media and everything. They're trying to create a reality that is not there. So like any type of racism or any kind of act like that, they really like blow it up and like boom boom boom, let's put this all over the place. Yes, racism is at an all-time high, when it really isn't. But because they're just like constantly in your face with racism, 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 blacks hate white, whites hate black, and the white man is evil. And never mind, it's like a bunch of old white men ruling the country that are telling you this. There was somebody calling. Oh my goodness. Sorry, we'll get back to that in a minute. Hello? Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just rambling about the government and it teaching people to hate and distrust each other, and so our communities are falling apart. Um,
Yeah. So is that what we're discussing tonight?
yeah, I'm kind of talking about what a little bit of what is his name, Richard Grannon, talked about with the Alice in Wonderland technique.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, so I was
Yeah.
I was sharing some of that and how I feel it ties into CPS, and
It does.
because the government is turning the people
No, it definitely.
it
Yeah, it
it
definitely does.
yeah,
Because I saw that in my generation where the Alice in Wonderland thing, the way that we were brought up, um, the gross neglect of a mother and hate of a mother that ends up going along with the government and the world society and system and dots her I's and crosses her T's with the legalism in society while she tries to destroy her own children and then steal their children, and society lets them get away with so much because they're part of the conformist to go along with supporting the sick society we live in.
right.
The Yeah, the
Um,
society that we live in that's based on legalism.
right. That's kind of like what I mentioned too, which I had first seen that a long time ago on the Jesse Ventura show, where it's like the
Yeah,
government is trying to make everyone secret agents and basically tell them, "Oh, you're a good citizen if you turn in your neighbors, friends, and relatives to the government." Um,
well,
and this is just another level of that where um and I was talking about racism too, and how I think the majority of people want the race wars to stop and are not racist, but
right,
that's what gets in the news. Like if they try to find every little form
right,
of racism they can and blow it up big time so that it's in your face constantly every day, racism, racism, racism. So then, like blacks hate white and whites hate blacks. And
right,
and it's like, so they're trying to create division and separation among us and animosity amongst the people and keep us all upset, stressed, and confused about what's real or not.
right, and about things that we don't even know happened or not.
Right.
And if they did, I'm sure there's plenty of good stories to tell, but they don't tell them.
Right, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And what I found with the CPS thing is they are a group of legalists, and they can get away with, like, Jesus rebuked the legalists strongly when he was here, and he because they're legalists, but it's not love or anything that comes from the heart of God and for a neighbor or for what's right for one another, trying to help another out or anything. It's people that have lived a lie in trying to destroy their own children, but look good on the outside, like the Alice in Wonderland. Look good on the outside while you play I win, you lose in your own house with your own children who are depending on you to help them to learn to fly. And then it's like, and then these are the people that goes around hurting other people with their children and stealing their children.
Right.
Just trying to have a messed up society.
Yeah, it seems like too that a lot of the neglectful and abusive parents are actually the ones that are
Yes, getting
taking
away
other
with taking
people's
other people's
kids.
children.
Yeah.
Yes, that is exactly what I have seen.
It's almost like they
And there's
see
so
a
many.
healthy relationship between a parent and their child, and because they don't have that, they hate it and want to destroy it.
That's what I've seen with my mother. That's what I've seen. They did not have that. They don't have those feelings that a mother should have. A person should have empathetic
Right.
feelings and
Normal
everything
human
for one another.
feelings.
And she was, I could see, very jealous of the love and the bond between me and mine, and wanting to destroy that. And yeah, I think a lot of that's where that comes from. And the CPS people, they'll let her go along and listen to her before they will someone like us, because she's a conformist and we're not.
Right.
And so they'll let her have her way even when her way is wicked.
And a lot of them are cut from the same cloth.
Exactly.
It seems like
Yeah,
that they are that they really don't seem to have natural human emotions themselves.
they don't. They don't. And it's a very bad and painful situation for the children, most of all, and then their parents, because they're basically having to bury a dead child that there's no body to bury. It's worse, they're alive somewhere where they're being brainwashed into being someone they're not, and they're being denied the love of their parent, and
right,
vice versa. And it's like when they have so much love to give them, and they could have a wholesome life. If it's a financial need, poverty, or something the parents are in, there's an answer for that, and to where people can help, not hurt others.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I feel like the way the funding is set up, it seems like there is a government agenda to take children from parents beyond just the CPS level. Because why do they give so much funding for families being destroyed, but they don't give any funding to help keep families together?
Exactly, that is what they do.
I feel like that's what they should do. I feel like that, you should be considered to be a bad CPS workers if most of your clients' children end up having to go to foster care or being adopted out,
Exactly.
That you're not doing your job and
yes, and I was
keeping them
listening
together.
to a sermon today that was talking about most of these molested children and stuff. Most of them were in foster care.
Yeah.
And this was on a sermon, a really good sermon, because all the sermons aren't good, but this was a really good sermon. And he was speaking the truth from the Word of God, and he said that most of these children that these terrible, terrible things happening to are from foster homes. And they should be trying to build the family together, at least keep the relationship together. We're not to judge about where someone is in their steps of healing or recovering or
Right.
turning away from sin to the straight and narrow road of repentance, because we all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, and none of us deserve anything good. And it's the mercy of God, the grace of God that gives us what is good. And He blessed us with our children, and there should be a
Yeah.
way of healing and helping to keep that relationship together.
I'm
And
definitely against them burying the files, because some people, they can't even find their parents because the files were sealed to where they're not allowed to find out who their birth parents are.
yeah, I've got a friend who doesn't know.
Yeah,
He said
and
his parents could walk right by him and he wouldn't know that that's
yeah,
his parents. He
and
can't find out.
I think that's something that should be illegal.
He said that was one thing that he resented when the woman that did adopt him was dying on her dying bed. He asked her, please tell him who his mother was. And she was dying and took it with her, wouldn't tell him who his mother was.
mm,
And she died. And so, yeah, I think that's wrong.
and
Like,
I think like I know there's probably some very rare extreme situations, but for most of the part, I really feel like no matter how bad the situation is, that I don't believe in no contact, like just complete
I
no
don't either.
contact at all.
I agree
And
100% with you.
even if no
I don't
contact
believe
is
in that.
necessary, I don't believe that there should be, because let's say this person really is psychotic and crazy, and they might come visit their child and shoot everybody. Let's say that's actually something that is a real threat. um, that I, even in that situation, I do not believe it should be legal to withhold that information
I
from a
don't.
child. Like, a child
Oh,
should
yeah.
know where they came from,
Yeah.
and a child
And
shouldn't
that
be
person
growing
could
up.
do that whether you let them be part of visiting or not. The
Right.
person could do that.
Yeah.
And the thing is if it's not about coveting the child, which is breaking one of God's commandments,
Right.
this person desiring for someone else's child to be theirs, not to help a child out and a
Right.
family out. You want to destroy that family. You want what that family has for yourself instead of being glad for what God gave you yourself. Everything you have that God gave you, for example, isn't what somebody else has that God gave them. Be happy with be content with what God gave you instead of wanting what God gave your neighbor, like their child. And it's like if you're not really coveting that child, then why are you trying to get them to forget their mother and who they are? And if you do mention them, you're trying to smear them. Why would you want them to hate their mother like that? If you weren't trying to take them spiritually in their mind, brainwash them into being fixated on you.
Right.
No
Well,
excuse for it. No excuse. Hey, you can help that child, and that child will love you for being a friend and helping their family at a time of need.
yeah.
If you really honestly want to just help their family, they'll be grateful the rest of your life when you do it the right way. And this is your mom, this is your dad, I'm your buddy, I'm your friend, or
Right.
yeah, I'm your aunt, I'm your uncle, I'm your friend.
Right.
I'm who I am in
Yeah.
truth. That's your mom, that's your dad. Honor them. But
Right.
without them, you would not be here.
And
Yeah, there's a right way to do things if you do have to do things to help a child and a family out.
right. I was saying that last week too about foster homes, that I don't feel like it's right. I feel like it should be a conflict of interest for foster parents to be able to adopt children.
Oh, it definitely is.
Because
It
there's
is.
supposed to
It
be
is.
a place to
Helping
right, there's supposed to be a go-between place
a
for
place where they're actually a
are supposed to
go-between,
be going
that
back
they're
home.
helping the family. That to where this foster people are supposed to know you can't, you will never adopt this child. You can't. You are helping this family out while they heal, while they recover, while they get to a place to where they're okay.
Right.
To where if they're not okay, while they get to a place to where we're working with them on getting to that place.
Right,
So that's what the
exactly.
goal should
They're
be
they're
anyway.
supposed to just be a safe place for the child to go to until, things get figured out.
Right. And
And
right,
if
like
they
a lot of
were
times where there's a divorce or a breakup, and you got parents fighting over their children because it's a very intense time,
yeah.
emotions, because this is supposed to be a couple that was bonded and now they're breaking up. And that's horrific in enough. And then you add children to it. You can't cut them in half, so one's going here and one's going there. And there can be a lot of emotions behind it, or somebody might be trying to get somebody else in trouble, so that they're not the parent that gets them. And people need to understand that kind of situation, and that it may not be a horrific situation at all, but a horrific emotion over divorce.
Right.
Yeah, and to get so that place in fostering should be a go-between while the dust settles.
Yeah. That's something a long time ago I remember Dr. Phil talking about was that parents needed to figure out what they were going to do before they ever went to the courtroom. And he said, because if you go in there the way that you've come on this show, that judge is probably going to take the kids from both of y'all. And then once family court gets involved, there's no telling what's going to happen to those kids. So y'all need to work out y'all stuff and figure out what y'all are going to do before y'all go.
And the sad thing is, for one, so many people do not see what social services really do, and they think they're wonderful at Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
People's stories here, and they are Satan, like a wolf going out as a sheep. They are going out, destroying families, destroying lives, destroying these children's lives and future and their families. And that's how they make their paycheck.
Yeah.
If they don't destroy, they have to go out and find so many children to screw up their family. I'm not laughing here, it's sad.
Yeah.
It's like the pain of the Joker when he cries. It's not this. It's not funny. It's so sad that they have to do that, because once their file is empty and they're on the last child, they're on their way out of a job.
Yeah.
So their job is to keep so many children in their file, and they actually get a $2,000 bonus for every child they adopt home.
Yeah.
So they're being rewarded for destroying families. And people sadly don't see that. So many people, many do who have been touched or faced, unfortunately, by them. But some people who have, walked on a bed of ease as far as having the picket fence around them,
Right.
and not had to walk through this painful part of life. They're blind to it, and it'd be nice to have an eye awakening.
Yeah.
To have some what could be decent people to have their eyes opened to say, "I see it. I see what you're saying. I see it too."
Yeah, I think a
That
lot of
is what
people
they're
are just
doing. That
really
makes sense.
ignorant about it, because the only thing that they know is what's put out there publicly, which is that,
Right.
Child Protective Services, they are there to protect the welfare of children, and so it's like that's all that they think, and they just, for some reason, have complete trust of authority, especially, like, in the, like, middle class and on up. More of the poor
Yeah.
communities kinda know what's going on because they're targeted by police and other forms of government.
I guess
And
that's why Jesus said he came for the outcast of the world
yeah,
because he knew that they would be the ones more receptive to receiving him because the other ones were already conformed and accepted in society with a pat on the back because they were like them.
right. And
That they're
and most of them, like, most of the people, like, say, middle class, upper middle class, and the rich, it's like they grow up being told, to that you can trust authorities and everything. The police are there to protect you and all these different things, and they've never had to deal with any corruption in the government.
right.
And so they just I think most of them are just really ignorant. And now, like I said, it's even worse because, like, we're starting to see more and more even middle class, upper middle class people starting to be targeted. Much less so than the poor, of course, but even they are starting to be targeted because our communities are falling apart, which is what I was wanting to talk about. That I love online communities, but part of the issue with that is because we are a global community now, everybody is more spread out. And so you don't have a close relationship with your next door neighbors and stuff to where you guys
Right.
actually know each other. So even if it's another person in your same class, like you're a lawyer and they're a doctor, and someone calls CPS on the doctor and is getting their kids taken, it's like you just assume that, oh, well, they must have been a horrible person, because
Right.
you didn't actually know them. And so
That
that's
yes,
part of
they
the
do. People do assume that.
right, and
In
that's part of
fact,
the problem is because people in the communities don't know other people in the communities as much as they used to. And so, they might only know someone on, like, a work level environment, like a surface level, but they don't actually, like, visit each other and know who these people actually are. And so they just assume that, well, I mean, if the government is after them, there must be a good reason because, the government is here to serve and protect us.
yeah, there
Um,
was a upstanding family thing years ago that I saw where social service had the boy was playing outside, fell out of a tree or something,
mm,
but seemed to be decent people and everything that loved their children, and they brought him to the hospital to the doctor because they were worried for his arm. He fell out of a tree, and when they brought him, the doctor ends up calling social service on him.
yeah. I've
Social
actually
service,
Go ahead.
social social service. I think they took them or threatened to take them where they had to do counseling or something for 6 months. This family just feels this. I think they were in the upper middle class. They just feel this shame now, this horror and the grief.
Yeah,
And they said they will never be the same
yeah.
after going through that. They will never feel the same. That
And
it just violated and vandalized their lives and shamed them like they were, like they were dirty
yeah.
when they weren't dirty.
Yeah, like when stuff like that happens to people, again, especially people who are in, middle class and higher, when it happens to them, they most of the time they're horrified. Like they can't believe
Oh,
that it
yeah.
that it could happen or would happen. And
Yeah, so see, their judgment of others who it has happened to, until that point, it happened to them. They might have been, oh, well, they're low life citizens.
Right, yeah.
Come to happen to
It would
them. It
never
had to
happen to
have
me.
a reason. But then when it happened to them, they realized, no, it didn't have to have a reason. I see how easy it can be done in a moment's notice. And
Right.
you can become a victim to it.
Well,
Unless the family has a whole tribe too,
yeah.
to go and stand up and say, no, what you're doing is not right. And then it depends on how many judges and
Yeah.
guardian of items and people who want to adopt that child
Right.
you got going against you.
That's one thing that I was talking about in the Facebook group, which I had wanted to mention on the live earlier, is that I had said in the group on that one person's post is that I want that for us, that I want our group to get big enough, even if it's those of us who we've lost our children or whatever, that's no reason why we can't try to go to court for other people that are going through this and
And be
stand with
heard.
them, because I think it really makes a difference. And like what Richard Grannon said, with as many people that are here in America, that if we all got together and said no, then they wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
He used other words, but that's what he
Yeah, I
meant.
think exactly. He was just blunt about it.
Yeah.
When I understand how the mothers who are afraid to speak up, I understand why, because society humiliates and shames them so bad.
Yeah.
It's like if a child were to die, and I know they might think that how could I even use that as an analogy, because the truth is that is the true analogy for a parent losing their child, no matter how they lost them.
Yeah.
And if it's in the case with social service, the parent didn't even have a body to bury.
Right.
But it's worse. Somebody's got them down the street, brainwashing them to turn them against you.
Right. And like
And it's like,
if you did happen to walk down the street and see your child, you have to hide yourself, look away, and pretend like you didn't see them and don't know who they are, or
right,
or else a bunch of armed men will come and arrest you and lock you up and take out
exactly,
charges on you.
exactly right. And the
So
terrible
you would
things they'll
basically get
say in those
treated like you
charges.
were a pedophile.
Right, it's true. It's exactly right. They let them in church every Sunday. It's like the females that are dressed indecent. What do they call them? Isn't that spiritually being a pedophile?
Right.
But, okay, but we'll stay on track, Amanda. It's like, yeah, but yeah, they do treat you. They treat people like that, and it's fine. But it's a sad, sad situation, and I just think if the parents could really, I would love to see that. If
Yeah.
they could stand up and speak up and bond together, even if it's just to receive, even if it never goes any further in helping any future generations, that we pray to God it does. We pray to God it helps the generation at hand,
Yeah.
the past generation, that they already grew up like that, unfortunately, but help them to heal with their families.
Right.
It's like, but if it can't do any of that, these parents need to heal within themselves.
Yeah.
Because grave is the pain. Grave is the pain.
And
there's no worse pain as a parent than
right.
that.
No, there isn't. That's something
And to
that
help
always
stand up
confused
and heal
me.
together.
Right. That's something that always confused me, was like, why is it that my children could, like, say, go to daycare, go to school, go to the store or whatever. And, like, why are they able to go to the store and be around all kinds of strangers and everything, but I'm not allowed to be around them or see them, you know?
Exactly. And they will probably make up excuses a
You know what
mile
I
long
mean?
just so they could try to smear you, condemn you, say something like that as an excuse. And that's all it is. It's an excuse, a justification.
Right. It's like
When the truth
just like
is
pretty much
they
it's
the
just
truth is they don't want them to love you
right.
because
Like they would
they're
try to
coveting
say
them.
that it's a matter of safety or something when
And it's a
what they're
lie.
actually saying is that basically I'm seen as a threat just because I'm the child's mother.
The only threat you are is to their jealousy over you because you are that child's mother. They hate you. They're jealous of you because they want your child.
Right.
They're coveting it. They want it to be like it's theirs, and it's not. But that's what
That's what it
people do
really is.
through
That's
adoption
that's
and
what
all
I
that.
mean. That's what
It's
the real threat is
that is
again, it's
what
that
the truth
cognitive
is. What the real
dissonance.
threat
They want the
is they're
child
afraid your child will see you, know that you're their
right.
mother, and
They're
they'll love you.
they are
And that is their biggest fear is that your child will love you.
right, like
They
they are
don't want
creating
your child to love
cognitive
you.
dissonance within that child and keeping them confused and brainwashed. And so what it is me just being present at all, it would and it's almost like they delude themselves. They create this false imagination and reality and present it to the child, but then they start believing it themselves and
Right,
forget all about you that, oh, this child has a mother or a father, and
right.
it's not me. And then it's like
They
they
don't want them
see
to.
you and it shatters their entire illusion. And, it makes them feel, I guess, exposed in a sense. And
Yeah, when it could have been a good thing all along that didn't ever have to. Could have been a benefit for everyone. Just everyone looking out for each other and helping
yeah,
each other out, and let the tribe bring the child up together with their
right.
mother
They
in
say
honor
it
of
takes
who
a
their parent
village to
really is,
raise a
and with their
child.
friends, with their aunts, their uncles, their brothers and sisters that all look out for each other and say who you really are, not who you want to be because you're coveting somebody's child.
Right.
And so now you got to deny that person as even being the parent
Yeah.
because you don't want them to be the parent because you're coveting their child. Just do the right thing and be content with what you have and let them be content with what they have and help each other along the way, and then it wouldn't turn out like that. But parents parents really need to heal
Yeah.
from what's been done to them by society and these people that have stolen their children. And this thing is no different in court. They talk about people who on the black market stealing children. It's no different.
Yeah.
I've thought
Well,
about it.
the funny
I've
thing
been,
is, with you mentioning the black market, is most of the children on the black market were gotten from foster homes.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Believe it. How else would they get them?
Yeah.
See?
Because
And
what's
it's
weird is
like,
whenever CPS loses a child, it's like they cover it up and get swept
oh,
underneath the
yeah.
rug. It's like a child goes
And
into foster
people,
care and dies, and it's like,
and a lot of people don't believe it. But I have seen it. I have seen it several times. I have seen it. And in passing, crossing, dealing with those kind of people, social service does lie somewhere in some county, in some office in this country every day,
yeah,
every working day. They lie somewhere, yes, literally. about what happened to the child
Yeah.
so that they can take them.
Yeah.
They do it.
They do.
And I think, and the world needs to wake up to it.
Yes.
I love you, Amanda. I'm going to bed.
All right. Thank you for
I had a
calling.
great show with you.
Yes.
I had a great. I think it'll do us good. It'll do people who are hurting good to actually be able to open up and talk about it. It'd be scary to open up because we live in a world that'll condemn them. But as we stand together, like you said, and grow, they can't stand against all of us.
Yeah.
We
I
can
really
speak
think that
up.
communities need to start coming back together, and it's like it's great to have an online community. I wouldn't be able to do this if I didn't have an online community.
Right, and
But we
this could
need a
save the
physical
children that
one.
are hurting now and the children that could be hurting later. It can prevent it, and
Right.
it can help the parents and the children to heal all
Yeah,
around.
definitely.
Love you.
I love
Have
you.
a good night.
You too. So, well, that was an interesting call. Um, so as I was saying, before, I don't remember exactly what I was saying now, actually. Hold on, let me get something to drink. Oh, yes, with the government. With them talking about the Alice in Wonderland technique and using it on a mass level. Like I said, with this whole racism, 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 sexism, 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 it's like, yes, look over here. Look at this hand. Don't look at this hand over here that's doing the trick. Look at this hand, it's doing something, don't look over here. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to keep people confused and in a state of high stress, fight or flight, um, all of those things to try to keep us, at war with each other. Because you got to think about it. There is, I don't remember how many people it is. Let me look it up. Let me look up the exact number of the population of people in America. I know it's really high. Not on Earth. USA. 327 million people in America. There are not that many people in power, you guys. So yeah, that's why Richard Grannon said that about, that if they all stand up and say no, then there's whoever's in charge, it is going to be quite the day for them. And the thing is I'm just to make it clear, I'm not saying, hey, let's go out and start a riot, I'm not one of those people. I don't want to say passive, but I'm a very peaceful person. And I believe in trying to, I do want to create change. I don't know if you've heard about like indigo children versus there's this new thing, it's like I don't remember, it's like rainbow crystal children or whatever. But indigo children, they want to create change in the world. They're very rebellious against the systems of the time because they can feel that it's not working and they need to create this change. And then the crystal or rainbow children, whatever it is, they are like the newer generations where they are not as focused on the world as they are themselves and are focusing on acceptance and creating a different world inside themselves rather than feeling like they need to go out here and make this change. Um, that's basically for most part what I get, and I'm kind of in the middle myself, where I fluctuate between the two, because what is most important to me is having that internal change and having that self-discipline and having being at peace within myself, and me having control of myself and being the person that I am meant to be. But on the other hand, I do see these changes that need to be made in the world, and I feel like I need to stand up and say something, because I don't know, I really feel I know that I'm not the only one, but it feels like it's so far and few between with hearing people speak up and try to create this change, that I feel like I'm the only one who's marching for this, who's striving for this, who's trying to influence this change. Which, like I said, I know that I'm not, but I just don't know where these other people are. Um, and a lot of the people, like I said, that I know who they would like for there to be a change, they're not in any position to be in a movement, or they just simply, it never occurred to them to actually try to change anything. And I'm not for people going out there committing violent acts and doing stupid things, because that is not how we're going to create change. The only thing that's going to do is for them to demonize us even more and demonize the cause. And so I am completely against that. Um, but I think one way that we can take a stand is for us to all stand together, go to court for other people, become involved in your community, and um, try. People need a place to go to where they can say, "Hey, listen, CPS was called on me. They came to my house. They just left with my kids. They showed up with a police officer and they took my kids." And for them to be able to call for people to come and meet with them, to try to help them get their children back. Um, and we really need this in communities. And like I said, I'm not really sure yet what all we need to do to get laws passed, what all we need to do to get the organization changed. But I believe that it does start with us, and that we need to stand with each other. It starts with us going to court for each other. And also, because that's what I plan on doing, I plan on this organization. We are going to have people that are, on hand, that are able to go to court for people, that are able to go, to where we will be that agency that you call and tell us, hey, that my kids are being taken, or CPS is, on me. I'm having to go to court. Will you come and, stand with me? And we will do that, that we will go and we will fight directly with CPS for parents, for them to either return their child, or if they haven't taken the child yet, hopefully, for them to, drop their investigation. So that's one thing. And another part of it is, I want for us to try to reunify people who, they have lost their children. Maybe they've lost their children. They know that their child is out there somewhere that has turned 18. And for us to, be a place where children can come and try to reunite with their parents. I know there's some places that already do that, but I'm just saying that's a part of what I'm wanting this to be for. I'm wanting us to be a place that goes to court and fights to protect people from CPS, to protect families from CPS, and also to bring families back together that have already been destroyed by CPS. and ultimately to reform the entire organization across our country. I'm really hoping that that's what we can do, and that's what I want to work towards. And that person's post in my group in the group this week that reminded me, that it just gave me some thoughts of what we could do. You know, we really need people to go to court for each other. We need people to call CPS workers on their bull, and be like, hey, you said this in the report, but I was there that day. You know what I mean? Like, I was there. I seen them, that, like, if we had more people that were together, where people actually knew each other, where people actually really knew each other like we used to know each other, where it's like, I know these people, Bob and Sarah, whatever, like they're great people, you know. And the day that you wrote that in the report, I was there, and their child didn't have bruises on them or whatever, and call them out, and be like, hey, you wrote down this child has marks on them. I seen them that day. They didn't have any marks on them. I seen them right after you wrote that and left. And because there have been cases where I've heard that, where people were being targeted, and it seemed like the CPS worker was leaning more towards trying to take the child from the home, and so they were writing things that sounded bad. Even they weren't trying to take the child from the home, they were at least trying to get extra points by, in the government or whatever, by making these people go through some kind of program, because they do that too. Um, so basically, just trying to act like there's a problem. Whether the intent was to take the child or not, I don't know, because the child was not removed from the home. But then they ended up reaching out, to their community, to people that they knew, and they were like, "Hey, this is what just happened to me. Will you be a witness? Like, look, here's my child. They said that they seen this, this, and this on them. Do you see that?" And you know, and so nothing ended up coming of it, thankfully. But we have that even less today than we ever have. And like I said, it's great to have an online community. It really is. It's great for us to be able to have an online community, but we also need to be taking care of our local communities too. Because right now, especially the number of people that we are right now, which isn't a whole lot, there it's unrealistic to think that we're supposed to pile up into a van, which this may happen one day, but for us to pile up into a van and drive across the country going to different, you know, courthouses, and arguing for people, like that may happen one day once the organization gets big and we actually have like a team or something that does that. But for most of the part, this is going to be on the local level, where we need people in the community to band together. And we also need for there to not be such a division between the poor and the middle class, because the a lot of like the middle class does not realize, that's why they're horrified when it happens to them, because like they're horrified, and they end up being traumatized for a really long time. And the weird thing about that is, it's not that it's not a traumatizing thing, it's just in the poor community, it's very normalized. Like where I live at, it's just accepted as a reality that, yeah, CPS gets called on you. Yeah, CPS takes your kids. Yeah, it's every day, bro. It's every day, It's just like normal, And so it's really interesting to hear some people saying they were traumatized by their experience with CPS, when it's something that some communities have to deal with every single day. They have to live in fear every single day that something will happen. And if something does happen, then the response of their community is like, Oh, yeah, yeah, my sister's kids were taken. Yeah, that's just how it goes, what you gonna do? And, it's just really downplayed, and we've just been normalized to it and are not normalized, desensitized. We have been desensitized to it. Um, so yeah, I know it's 5 minutes after the hour. But like I said, like I said before, I might go longer sometimes if we did get a phone call. But it is very late, so I probably won't be on here much longer. But I just wanted to recap some of the things that I thought was interesting tonight. Um, so yeah, it is possible that there is a much larger agenda going on here. And I'm not saying this to try to get all conspiracy theory and stuff like that. I really try to get away from that. I really try to get away from that where because I used to study a lot of different government scandals and conspiracies and stuff, and I knew about the Nancy, what is her name? Lord help me, I can't even remember her name. I've mentioned her several times, and now I can't remember her name. Anyway, but the senator that was investigating CPS. I'm sorry that I can't remember her name right now. But it's probably because it's very tired, and I have been up all day and had a very eventful day. Um, So I knew some about the CPS stuff even before it happened to me, but again, it was just kind of shocking when it did. Not necessarily that CPS was called on me because I had had people in my community call a couple of times, but it was like nothing came of it because, the CPS workers that came were like, "Oh, yeah, there isn't a problem, that it's fine. Um, we'll drop in and visit you, like next for a couple of weeks, and then we'll close your case." And so, when it was like went to the extreme of being arrested and locked up and all of that stuff, it was just very, very shocking. Like I could not believe the brutality of the force that was used against me by the police officer just because somebody said something. It was completely hearsay and completely made up. It was completely fabricated. And I was just extremely shocked at how violent they were towards me, sorry, both verbally and physically over something that wasn't even true, that was hearsay. And, I was manhandled and, thrown into a car and toted off to jail. And it was just very weird and surreal to me. Um, and so that, yeah, like that for me, that was shocking. And there's other communities that are even worse than mine, believe it or not, to where it's just a normal thing for the police to be brutalizing their citizens. It happens a lot here, but it happens probably more in more places that are more densely populated, where the poor community is also larger. And so, you know, and there's even more division too between the poor and the rich. Whereas in my community, because it's so small, you do get some mingling between like poor to middle class, middle class to rich class. Like there are some interlacing qualities, especially because kind of like with me, who I grew up middle class, but then I became poor as an adult. Um, that is probably part of the reason because you have different generations of people, and some of the generations it's like you know they were rich or they were middle class, and these ones just became poor, or maybe this one was from a middle class family and they became rich. So that's why you kind of have these mingling between the two. But in other communities, you're talking about generations of people being poor, where they have never had a person go to college, that type of thing. And so the situation is even worse. Um, anyway, I guess at this point I'm kind of rambling. Next week, I do want to talk about certain things. Next week, we're probably going to focus more on our own self healing. And I'm going to write down some things for that. I thought about getting into that tonight, but as late as it is, and with receiving a phone call, I'm probably just going to leave y'all with the Alice in Wonderland technique. If y'all haven't seen Richard Grannon, I would advise you to look him up. He did a lot of videos on narcissism, but he does a lot of videos on recovering from CPTSD, which is a basically what it is, you got PTSD, which means you can identify what event, what thing triggered that trauma, like where the person is traumatized now. Whereas CT, CPTSD, sorry, is complex PTSD, where there were there's either like not just one, but like several events that happened, or it may have been that it's something that developed over time. So like maybe they didn't have, like maybe they weren't molested as a child and then, raped as an adult and beaten by the husband, when they were 25 or something. But maybe it was like, they just they were neglected as a child, not in the sense of like, oh, they weren't fed and stuff, but they were ignored by their parents. And then, they just kind of grew up in that kind of home. And so it's like, even though there's not one particular event that they can point out, they have similar symptoms as PTSD people, but it's more complex because they can't identify the exact trauma, like where the trauma stemmed from. And most of the time, CPTSD does develop from childhood. Um, but you can get it as an adult, although it's usually more severe and harder to fix once you're an adult. And the reason why I think that's important is because I think I may have had a form of that from my past relationships, because I think I developed it as an adult. Um, and like not been diagnosed, but I believe that I have a lot of those symptoms, and that I was it was from abusive relationships, or not even abusive but toxic relationships, and also from like losing my children. So it's like, even though there is like an identifying event, it's more than one. It's several different types of events too. And so that's why it's more complex. Um, and I've also had concussions and stuff that I think probably amplified it as well. And so I think that's why it's really interesting for us to look at. Um, that's one of the reasons why I started watching Richard Grannon's channel, is because of the CTPSD, no, CPTSD. I'm sorry, for some reason, just throwing a C on that just completely messes me up with trying to pronounce it and say it. And the narcissism thing, that's what attracted me there. But he talks about a lot of other things that I find are interesting, like spiritual awakening and stuff. Even though like he's not extremely he's not a very religious person, but um, he has studied a lot of the same things that I've studied as far as religion and spiritual beliefs, and like Buddhism, Christ consciousness, that type of thing. And so I think that there's a lot of helpful stuff on his channel if you guys want to go watch it. And also, you can Google and look up more about the Alice in Wonderland technique. I actually haven't done that yet. I just learned the term from him, and when he was describing it, I realized that I've actually experienced that. But thankfully, I am more protected from that happening again, because I am more aware now. I'm sorry, we're 15 minutes past the time, and It is 11:17 at night. So I'm going to end this video here, you guys. I'm sorry that it's so late. Next week, we will either be back at our normally scheduled time, or which is, wait, what time do I normally do it? Is it 8 p.m.? Is that the time we've been doing it? So yeah, it'll be 8 p.m. next week unless I write in on the group Sunday. Keep an eye out Sunday, check it, make sure that I haven't posted that I'm not going to be doing it at the same time. But if I don't post, then it'll be 8 p.m. next Monday. And I can't wait to see you guys there. I do have more stuff I want to share with y'all, but we will save that until Monday. If any of you guys would like to talk about anything in particular, feel free to post it to the group. When I post this video, I'm going to put the links to both of my groups, the Life After Loss, which is for parents who unfortunately had their rights terminated, or they've lost their child in any other way. You could have lost your child to cancer, but it doesn't really matter how you lost them. Um, but, if you're someone who's experiencing loss with your child where there's, little to no hope of ever being reunified, then, feel free to join the Life After Loss group. I do hope that I'll be doing more stuff. I'll try to post more therapeutic things there. Although I do post a lot of therapeutic stuff on my Facebook stories, or, uh, yeah, I think that's what it's called, right? Facebook stories. I post some therapeutic stuff there, but I need to post more things in the group. But feel free to go and post your story or post your opinion, anything there. And there will also be a link for the Amanda Brown CPS Reform Group, which is for anybody who is for the movement of getting CPS to reform, or they want to help families, they want to support families and support their community, to keep families safe, to protect families and children from CPS. So, yeah, I'm going to put both of those in the comments after I close the live. And so that is it for this week. And I hope to see you guys next week. Bye.